Business athletes, what is going on, guys? Welcome back for yet another action-packed episode. Man, in this one, I'm going to be speaking from the heart. Obviously, they all are from the heart, but this one is definitely one that I think will hit home for many of you guys. It hits home for me for sure. And it's the hidden cost of being successful. The hidden cost of being successful. And how to build a body that can handle your ambition. Whoa, how to build a body that can handle your ambition. You know, one of the things that I've been really fortunate to experience in my consulting journey is working with a range of what people would consider high performers. You know, people that are business owners, CEOs, professionals, like a lot of white-collar professionals and entrepreneurs. I've even had former special operators on the roster, so former Navy SEALs, Green Beret, Army Rangers, first responders, SWAT, police, fire. So a lot of people that have to push themselves in ways that are like an athlete, hence the whole concept of business athlete. That's where it really comes from. It comes from this idea that business and achieving in business is many ways an athletic endeavor. Like if you're fat and out of shape and burned out, you're going to have a really hard time being super successful in business. And what can sometimes happen, and this is where I want to start this conversation. What can sometimes happen is you get rewarded for this. So I've seen people, and I know people in business who have had a lot of financial success, but they're fat and out of shape and burned out and unhealthy and on medications, and they're not a great role model for their kids, and they're not really connected to their spouse. And they've still had a lot of financial success. And what happens is you inadvertently get rewarded. So imagine being in a ecosystem where you're getting rewarded financially for like a lot of bad habits that are costing you everything in other areas. Because you can obviously be a fat, out of shape brain surgeon or a fat, out of shape sort of AI CEO and someone who hires a team and a crew, and you have a bunch of staff and you're good at managing people, but you're not good at managing yourself. And so you can have financial success and not have the rest of your life together. That's why when people say how you do one thing is how you do everything, that to me isn't true. Because I've seen people that have had a lot of financial success and the rest of their life is chaotic and disheveled. So it absolutely tells me that how they do their business is not how they do everything. But what I want to tell you is that this is the hidden cost of being successful. So in this episode, I want to tell you a few stories. I want to talk about why this is such an important concept, especially for men to understand. Because if you don't grasp the things I'm going to talk about in this episode, that is heart attack and stroke territory. It absolutely is heart attack and stroke territory. So from a perspective of literal life and death, it's worth listening to this episode. But beyond that, I want to give you tools and frameworks and protocols to make sure that you perform at a higher level and manage the pressure and stress. You know, think about it. You know, I talked about how to build a body that can handle your ambition. And I found, like, I've learned through trial and error. I've learned through the fire, where I'll tell you a quick story about part of my journey. And then I'll give you some examples of people that I know and that I've coached that I absolutely have a feeling you will relate to. So a number of years ago, when I was newer into the nutritional coaching entrepreneurial space, and this is probably right around the time, it was probably just before Zia was born. So my 7-year-old daughter, it was probably just before she was born. and sort of in the early years of her life. And I was very ambitious, and I was very tenacious with learning and helping people get good results. Like, I was so driven to help people get good results, and people did get good results. So I was constantly responding to messages. I was constantly in the coaching groups. I was constantly talking to people on the phone, texting, messaging, constantly supporting people to optimize their health. And a lot of people got really good results. They really did. But, and by the way, in doing all of that, I was making a lot of money. I mean, I was literally in the 6-figure per month profit territory. Early 6-figure per month profit territory. Basically with like one virtual assistant. And even for the ebbs and flows of just organic marketing, I didn't have any paid ad campaigns. It was all word of mouth and all organic marketing. And I would range anywhere between $80,000 and $150,000 a month. A month. And most of it was profit. 90% of it was profit. And I had one virtual assistant. And that's how good I was at helping people get results, that there was so much word of mouth, and the organic marketing was that good. But before you sort of think, oh, wow, that's cool, I want to do that too, I was probably at a point in my life where I burned out the hardest. It was getting to the point where when I would have another person sign up, I instantly felt anxiety, because now I know that I've now got another person to handle and manage. And obviously we can go down the rabbit hole of being better at delegating and teaching people and having a team and all those things, absolutely. But early on, I didn't have the awareness, I didn't have the skills, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now. And I remember literally making money and then feeling absolute anxiety about how I was going to actually implement it all, how I was going to do it, and not let people down, and not feel like I'm failing people. And what I found was that I was just glued to my phone and my computer all day. So I would wake up, I'd get push notifications, I'd have a bunch of text messages, I'd have a bunch of messages in Telegram, my Facebook messages and Instagram were always stacked. And so I would just, every day, it was like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. I'd be constantly trying to like get my inbox to zero and like get my numbers down. And this is before a time where there was a lot of good social media people who can teach you how to quote unquote buy back your time. Dan Martell is one of my mentors, and he's very good at sort of explaining how to leverage yourself more. I didn't have my signature courses, and I didn't have my masterminds and things that I have now. I was just doing straight customized one-on-one. So everything was heavy lifting. Everything was doing the same stuff over and over again. Whereas now, I have my 6-week signature course, the Anomaly Project. I've got my Business Athlete Council, which is my mastermind group, where I do group calls. And so I'm sort of talking to one-to-many and still giving people the nuance and the time and the attention that they need. But I was creating a lot of success on the surface, but I was really starting to struggle. And what happened early on was that I even found at times, and this is like I said, when Zia was very young, there were times where I was taking a ton of caffeine, and then I also sort of got stuck into habits like kratom. I never really did a ton of THC or cannabis, but I did a lot of kratom and caffeine. And I really started, and I felt like it was really affecting my health, my digestion, like just in general, just my mind. And I had so much pressure on myself. And I remember just, it's funny because like you might be in a beautiful environment. You might be in a beautiful house or a beautiful location, and you have every reason to feel happy. And you feel like you're a prisoner. You feel captive. You feel like you have golden handcuffs. You feel terrible. The anxiety is like this wall. And I remember at times, I vividly remember one time like crying. And I said to Lauren, I'm like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And she was like, well, what are you going to do then? Like, what would you want to do instead? And just asking me that question, like I had no idea. Like part of me was like, man, it would almost be easier just to go work at Kroger in the grocery store. That's literally sometimes you get to that point. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, something's got to change. I have to change this. I have to figure this out. And because also, by the way, this is when I first started getting my blood work run and being more conscious about my metrics. And what I noticed was that my resting heart rate was quite high. I noticed that, and it was probably from the caffeine and the kratom and all these things. And I noticed that my blood pressure would be high whenever I would test it. So then I would avoid testing it too much because it would make me more upset and frustrated. And I noticed that my blood work wasn't very good. It wasn't bad, but it was definitely not where it should be for like a nutritionist and sort of a dietitian consultant. And I knew that I had to figure this out. I was thinking to myself, man, if I'm having problems and pressure and mental breakdowns at this level, then if I get to $500,000 a month or $1 million a month or whatever, how would I ever handle that? That will kill me. It will put me in the grave. And maybe your threshold of income looks different for you. Maybe it's less. Maybe it's even more. You know, I've had guys that I coach that have had 9-figure businesses, 8 and 9-figure businesses. But because I've had a degree of success in my own world, I have even more of an understanding when I'm talking to them about the pressure and the stress. And it's something that I'll tell you how to determine if you are having issues. Because you might say, well, you know, life's always stressful. It's inherently stressful, especially if you're a spouse and a parent. You're going to have stress in life. How do you determine if the stress is too much? How do you determine if your nervous system is just getting too fried? So there are obviously signs. There are things that you need to think about. And I'll kind of just list off some of these. First of all, if you notice that you're getting fat, like if you notice that you're getting puffy, you're gaining weight, you're looking puffy, you're either water retention and or your body weight's just going up. Part of it is like looking in the mirror and doing comparison pictures, front, back, and side, and have a look at it. Or get yourself a Hume scale, Hume, Hume, and literally get the data. So you stand on that Hume scale, and it will tell you how many, what your body fat percentage is, how much muscle mass you have. And I do find that that's probably a better way of doing it than just looking at your body weight by itself. I would say if you get your blood work run, and you should, the areas that I pay attention to for blood work are going to be things like C-reactive protein, or HSCRP. Very, very important to get that one tested. It's like a canary in the coal mine for how likely someone is to have a heart attack or stroke. And for example, if your CRP is above 1, you want to address that. The quote-unquote normal ranges for CRP is between 1 and 3, but I would tell you that's average as hell. I'm not interested in just being in normal range. I want to be phenomenal. And so if you're 2 to 3 plus with a CRP, that's dangerous. That's not good. You have to start figuring that out. And I want to get you below 1. I'm like, right now, I'm like 0.3, which is really, really good. But I used to be in the 4s and 5s. I've seen people up to like 10. And that's when you have to say, look, like your body is very, very inflamed. And that inflammation is going to drive mental health issues. It's going to drive mood disorders, anxiety and ADHD, and it's going to drive a lot of heart health issues too. So you got to figure out getting that stuff down. So CRP, C-reactive protein is the first one. Other things like your sex hormones. So total testosterone, free testosterone, estrogen. I would even get SHBG. So SHBG is sex hormone binding globulin. If you have high SHBG, that's typically reflective of you have a high stress level. If you notice that your DHEA is low, that's typically a sign of high stress levels. You can even get cortisol run. That will obviously tell you a lot because cortisol is a stress hormone. I would be getting things like vitamin D checked because when that's low, your immune system and your mood is often not good. I would be getting your insulin sensitivity markers run. So hemoglobin A1C, fasting insulin. Those are good ones to know how your body is handling calories and sugar. Like you want to make sure that you become more insulin sensitive, not insulin resistant. I would get thyroid checked, thyroid antibodies, for example, because you may be having an autoimmune reaction, which is very common with thyroid, and it can really affect your metabolism. It can affect your fat loss. It can affect your digestion, hair loss. So if you're experiencing high resting heart rate, low heart rate variability, you're often getting high blood pressure, you'll notice you're losing your hair, your nails are kind of brittle, you look like your complexion doesn't look great, like you might have sort of darker circles around your eyes, or you just have a lot of water retention in your face. So your face is fat, basically. You have water retention sitting in your face. All of those things are physiological signs that your body is not right. And even beyond that, your sleep. So if you are going to bed, but you're not getting a lot of deep and REM sleep, and or you are just not sleeping a lot, that's a big issue that you must figure out. Because I find for myself, right when I was at the peak of all these challenges, that's when I was going through the worst period for my sleep too. Lord have mercy. I just remember it was so difficult. It was so difficult because what I think happened was I was using so much kratom that it was basically affecting my sleep. And then because my sleep was really bad, my mental health was just tanking. And then because I was so tired and my mental health was so poor, I was canceling calls. I was canceling mastermind. Any times I had calls with clients, not any time, but like at times I would be canceling things and rescheduling. I was constantly rescheduling stuff because I was just I was just struggling, really, really struggling. And I know that maybe you are in that position or maybe you've been there before. And the first thing I'll tell you is have some compassion for yourself. We can be so hard on ourselves. I remember being very hard on myself. I felt a lot of guilt, and I was very hard on myself. And I do think holding yourself to higher standards is really important, and it's useful if it's done the right way. But just like a ton of self-shame and loathing, that's not useful. You then become a really unpleasurable person to be around. And when you're being that negative wet blanket, you won't have good people who want to be around you. And that is something you have to solve for. But beyond the blood work stuff, you'll notice, and the sleep, like I said, the sleep starts to deteriorate. You will notice that you get anxious a lot. You feel anxious and you feel irritable. You will often notice that bleeds over into your intimate relationships. So you might have a tension in your marriage or in your partnership. You'll be irritable. And that is a huge source of pain for people. When you're not feeling connected with your partner, I would say everything else is exponentially more difficult. And obviously the disconnection from your kids. I often say in these episodes, I talk about how as a business athlete, you have to see it as an obligation to especially your children, to be a healthier, better version of yourself. Because if you are fat and burned out and jaded and stressed out, first of all, that's not a good role model for them. They see all that. Do you want them to go through all the pain and suffering that you're going through? You don't want that for them. But beyond that, are you even able to connect with them in a positive way at all? Probably not. And so it's this like two-pronged attack where it's painful on both fronts. Beyond the connection with the kids, you'll notice that brain fog and sort of ADHD-like symptoms become very prevalent. You know, a lot of people will think they have ADHD, but really they're just super inflamed. You know, their C-reactive protein is really high and their sleep's not good, so they just have mental fog because they're so inflamed. And that inflammation bleeds over into all different areas. Like you notice that you won't be recovering as well from training. You'll be more sore more often. So you're not going to recover as well. You'll notice that you are just more puffy. You lose some of the definition that you had, or it feels like it's harder to get lean because you have that added water retention. And I would say that thinking about that journey in my life, I would say some of the biggest challenges that I had was I would work late, like I would work just any hours I could until I would hit burnout. I would skip meals initially, so I would just keep eating. I would just keep working, and then I would just try to jam in meals haphazardly whenever I remembered. I would definitely sacrifice sleep and live off caffeine and other stimulants. And I was constantly available. Like I would have people message me, call me, text, and I was the pro. I was the champion at responding at the drop of a hat. And now I look back and I realize that was such a detrimental thing. Because what it does is it trains people that that's what they should expect from you, and it trains them to be dependent on you. I've had conversations with my students before. I'm like, hey, there'll be times where I don't respond right away. Do your best, and then we can talk about it when we talk, because I want you to build out the skills and the competency to navigate life. I don't want you to be dependent on me long term. Like at a certain point, those training wheels are going to have to come off. And I want you to know how to do it without me. So that's why I will let you have your experience. And even if it pisses you off, and even if you want to throw your toys out of the cot, so be it. But just know that this is the best instance for you. But I've had people come to me before. And I've had guys, and I won't mention names, but I've had guys that come to me, and they're in there between like 40s and 50s. That's kind of the range. And even a few women too. Businesswomen, professionals. And they had 8 and 9 figure businesses. So pretty substantially large businesses with a number of employees, but they was doing between 8 and 9 figures per year, and that was and their business had valuations in the 9-figure territory. So you can imagine there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of expectation, and there's a lot of desire to just keep growing and see what else you can achieve. And I would see with these people that they either were overweight, like fat, obese, or they weren't necessarily visually obese, but they were skinny fat. So they sort of had that dad bod skinny fat thing going on where they would wear t-shirts, and maybe their arms were they looked kind of built, but they had man boobs and they have love handles. They're not really dialed in. And all that fat is just like straight inflammation hanging off their body. They would often have blood pressure issues and cholesterol issues. So they would have doctors harping on at them about, you're going to have to get on statins, you're going to have to get on blood pressure medications, you're going to have to get on this, get on that if you don't change these things. And they would just be like fretting, constant fretting around heart health, around blood pressure, around ApoB, cholesterol profiles. All of those things were warning signs. And often, what I would find with these guys is they get digestive issues. So one of the challenging things was that because they got a lot of digestive issues, they were quite constrained with the types of foods that their body could handle. So think about this. You might have heard me say things before like eat the rainbow. And eating the rainbow can be great if your digestion can handle that. If your digestion can handle raw, uncooked, fibrous rainbow vegetables like microgreens, like red peppers, carrots, the things I do every day. If your body can't handle those because your gut's super inflamed, how are you meant to get those into your rotation to even get the good nutrients in the first place? So that was a huge bottleneck for people, is that their digestion is so inflamed from all their nervous system stress that they can't even get the healthy foods in properly. So then what happens is they start eating stuff that they can tolerate, and it's typically low ROI foods. It's like packaged, boxed crap that they might think is kind of okay, but in my opinion, it's not good. Beyond that, part of it is like you don't know what you don't know. So they might be executing on a certain diet, a certain way of doing things. But once I get my eyes on it and I'm looking at what they're doing, I'm like, man, this is not good. Like, these foods are not health foods. They're not good things. And so they'd be used to eating a certain way, thinking that they were doing a great job, when in actuality, it was like a terrible job. Or just not good, not promoting health. And so part of it is like reintegrating and working through the digestive issues. Another part of it's often sleep. You know, they're just freaking wired. They did not sleep well. Waking up all the time. Some would have sleep apnea. Some would just like struggle to fall asleep. And what they didn't realize was that if you don't learn how to calm your nervous system down, especially at nighttime, you'll go to bed wired and tired, where you're just laying there and you're staring at the ceiling. So in terms of calming your nervous system down and getting your body ready for sleep, the first thing is you've got to get up early enough. If you're sleeping in, then you're not going to feel tired at 8 o'clock at night. So that's part of the problem. You've got to train yourself to get up earlier, have a productive morning, train yourself, be consistent with it. And if you lock in those basics and then train every day and get enough step count in, you're going to feel tired by 8 and 9 o'clock at night and you'll fall asleep. Beyond that, a ton of blue light exposure. If you're just glued to your phone and glued to your computer and glued to your tablet and have all the interior lights on, all that blue light's absolutely blunting your melatonin release and causing all kinds of issues for your sleep. All kinds of issues. And then beyond that, they're not getting enough full spectrum and or red light exposure. And so every day I'm saying, get some red light from a Hooga red light panel if you can. Get outside at least 2 times a day for 5 to 20 minutes or more. 2 times, morning and late afternoon. Now, I get out, to be honest with you, I get out every hour for about 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes I get out and I prime the pump. I recharge the system. And I found that for me, that's been a really powerful lever in terms of optimization long term. But at the very least, 2 times a day, 5 to 20 minutes, sun on the skin, take your shirt off, wear a tank top, don't wear your sunglasses, and that way you're maximizing that intake of full spectrum light, which helps with mitochondrial health, it helps with lowering blood pressure, it helps with melatonin production, which obviously helps with sleep. So that's a huge part of the puzzle. Another thing that I would say is you've got to treat your workouts and your meals like set appointments in your calendar. A lot of these guys, sometimes they were consistent with their training, and sometimes they weren't. Sometimes they just jammed everything in whenever they had time. So they would be constantly on calls, having conversations, and then between those calls, they'd be jamming their workout and they'd jam their meals in. So now, not only are they rushing their workout and trying to get it done in 10 minutes, now they're rushing how they eat and like moving around while they're eating and like stress eating. And so like they're rushing and eating, and at the same time, that's a recipe for digestive issues. Like if you wolf down your meals and you barely chew your food and you're already stressed while you're eating, all that's going to do is exacerbate those issues even more. And so I would tell you, have a look at your day and structure in time blocks where all of these things take place. What time of day are you going to train for your 30 to 60 minutes or whatever? And lock that in as a non-negotiable. What times do you plan on eating through the day? And make sure that you take a little bit of extra time to chew your food and slow down. See, for me, for example, I didn't want to have to like pump the brakes and spend all day eating. So I have one big primary meal at dinner time at the end of my day where I can sit down, I can breathe, I can slow down my nervous system, and I can enjoy it with my family. And I find that works really well for me. And I did not used to do that. I used to kind of jam it in haphazardly whenever I could. And what happens is you end up becoming very reactive. So like sometimes you won't have enough time to get something in, and you will just be running on fumes. And then you either overeat, you get tons of cravings, so you overdo it. But being reactive like that with your diet and your training is not how business athletes operate. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of that. And what I would notice was that a lot of these people, they had a real sense of pride on being very responsive with their messaging. I get emails, or, I'm always available for calls. They often talk about how the sign of someone who's going to be successful is like, answer your phone. They go on these rants and these tirades about, people need to answer their phone, as if like you should be glued to your device. And no matter what you're doing, pump the brakes and stop what you're doing to be totally reactive to everyone else around you and their agenda and their hustle culture. And I just flat out don't agree with that. And I don't do that. I do the opposite of that. And sure, I know that will have and does annoy some people. So be it. They can go somewhere else. The way I think about this is I'm skillful enough at what I do that the people who value the way that I do it, they will stay, and together we will get amazing, beautiful results for them. But equally, if they have a problem with it and I'm not responsive fast enough, they can go somewhere else. And that's totally fine. Let them have their experience and let them walk that path. But what I would tell you is your push notifications on all your tech, it has to stop. Push notifications for emails, for text messages, for calls, for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. And I know I'll give some of my students a lecture when I know that they're doing this, because I'll see them, I will message them, and I can see them listening to my message in real time. So I know that they're getting a push notification to their phone and that they're instantly reacting in the moment. And over time, I train them to be like, hey guys, I don't even want you to have push notifications on for me. I want you to set an alarm reminder and go into your messages when you have it blocked into your calendar, and then listen, then we connect. And I've had to do this because one of the things that I found was a really big challenge for me, and anyone who's ambitious will relate to this. You want to do right by people. You want to give them a good service. You want to help them, especially if you're a people pleaser. And I'm a reforming people pleaser. And so I really wanted to do right by people. I wanted them to like me. I wanted to help them. I wanted them to have a good experience. And so I would say yes to all kinds of stuff. If they needed to get on extra calls, I'd say, yep. I would answer the call whenever it came in, even if I was making dinner with my family. I would be constantly replying to messages, constantly responding to stuff. And again, the first thing was that just makes people very, very dependent. And I want people to be very autonomous. Yes, I want you to learn from me. Yes, we're going to have lots of conversations. But I want you to stay and grow to be autonomous, where you don't need me. Because the worst thing is when you get someone a great result, and then they finish their coaching with you, and then they go, and then their whole life implodes on itself because they did not know how to handle life without you being there. Now I do the opposite of that. I train people to be battle ready by themselves, and I remind them of this, and it's a good thing. But what I found was that I was constantly being reactive. And then you wonder why you have ADHD, because you're training your brain like that. Not only are you training your brain to be very reactive because you're just constantly getting pattern interrupts coming in and taking your focus away from what you're actually doing, but you're watching these short 10 and 20 second Instagram and TikTok reels all day too, which is just training your attention span to be 10 to 20 seconds long. So between constantly watching short form content and constantly just being reactive to people's demands of you, you are training ADHD-like symptoms into yourself. And more medication is not the solution. It's not. And in fact, I would say you've got to learn how to protect your boundaries and be clear about what they even look like. So what I would tell you, and I had a friend say this to me, it was such a wise thing that he said. He's like, look, man, when you're dealing with these people, they come to you because they want your result. They see the result you have. They see the health result you have. They see the life that you have. And there's a part of them that wants the result that you have. But if you don't bring yourself to the party, if you don't bring your steps and systems and processes to the relationship, they're not going to get your result. They're going to get more of their result. And that's exactly why they came to you. And it was like this aha moment of oh my word, I have a moral obligation to create boundaries with this person, even if they don't like it, to help them understand that the current life they have right now is a byproduct of the boundaries they do and do not have. And so now at this point, I have an unorthodox approach to how I do everything. And I'm going to share some of it with you. And some of it may not make sense to you. You might hear this and go, oh, that sucks. But you know what? I can build my brand off this and continue to grow in a way where I feel happy. I'm not jaded and fried and miserable, but making money. That, your children, your spouse, they need a happier, more stable version of you. They don't need the rich, fat, exhausted, mentally smoked version. They need a better version of you. So, and it's not, and to say this, it's not even a trade-off. People will go, oh, so you're saying, I've got to do all these things and then I'm not going to be successful. No, I'm saying, how can you achieve both? How can you grow in success in your business financially, but at the same time, having steps and systems that manage your psychology and nervous system so you can play the long game? Because I've had guys come to me in their late 40s and 50s, like I said, that have built 7- and 8-figure, 9-figure businesses, and the doctor said, you're going to have to get on blood pressure medications and cholesterol medications because you are having issues, and if you don't fix this, you're going to have a heart attack or a stroke. And so they're being confronted with that reality that if they don't change something, they're essentially going to die. That's what they're actually saying. If you don't change what you are doing, at some point sooner rather than later, you are going to die. And just think about it with me for a second. Do you really want to take 10 or 20, 30 years off your life just for accolades and just to say you paid a few more bills and just to have a little bit more money? if you even think it's a trade-off. I'm not even under the illusion it's a trade-off. I'm just under the illusion that you need a better system and steps. And that's why I would tell you, if you are a professional or a business owner, reach out to me and get into my business athlete council or get some one-on-one work with me. Because I have an intimate understanding of what this looks like. You know, a guy, for example, that I work with often, Chris Daughtry, the musician. He was one of the top American Idol guys. I talk to him often. And he's really had to learn how to manage his lifestyle and stress. And I've been fortunate enough to walk hand in hand with him through his whole process. So I've seen what it takes. And I have a lot of the tools in the tool belt because of those types of people. So take advantage of that. But the thing that I want to kind of reaffirm to you is that the doctor would say to these people, you're going to have a heart attack or a stroke, so something has to change. And then they're confronted with the reality of what does change even look like? Like I'm an old man. Like can the old dog learn new tricks? The hardest part for a lot of men is to understand that a lot of the stress and pressure and issues that they have is driven by like childhood traumas and not feeling like you're enough and constantly running from your emotions and being detached from your emotions and not knowing how to express yourself. You know, there's guys that I've seen do really well in business, but they have a very low emotional IQ. They don't have a lot of emotional maturity. They just kind of repress everything and white knuckle. Repress and white knuckle. Rinse and repeat. And so they don't know how to talk about their emotions at all. And that's a huge issue that we must all work on. Because if you start learning how to do that more, you process this stuff and you become a better version of yourself. So for me, for example, my whole routine is so different than the average person. And I'm still able to consult people at the highest level. Yeah, sure, it's unorthodox, but I kind of like that. So for me, for example, I get up at about 2:30 in the morning. And I have what I call white space, where in the morning, I'll watch YouTube content, I'll learn. It's like my learning time and or time where I just watch stuff that I enjoy. Sometimes I'll watch things on like house design and homesteads and gardening. Because like over time, where the land is we have in the Smoky Mountains, I want to nurture that place. We're going to build our house, and I want to build out sort of a self-sustained area, fruit trees, orchards, gardens. I like the idea of that. That's appealing to me. Now, you might find that that's not interesting to you at all. But I watch that stuff as a way to just like slow my brain down and to just consume something different that's not constantly work-related. And then once I am up, so for a couple of hours, I'll do that. And that gives me that time to like be alone. I don't have any labels. I'm not reacting to anyone's messages. I'm just me. And I just get to sit with myself, and I'm not constantly rushing around putting out fires. Then at about 4:30, I'll come out to my superhuman gym, and I walk on my standing desk and my walking pad. And I'll usually walk for about 30 minutes, where I send a couple of friends messages. So I've got a couple of close friends where I'll talk with them about business and life and strategy. And it's almost like you're blowing out the mental cobwebs. So I start walking and I listen to some of their messages that they sent through from the day before. And then I'll start to kind of talk to them about business and life and some of the challenges and how to solve them and positive stuff. It's positive stuff. It's solution-oriented stuff. And what I find is that conversation plus the walking really starts to get that energy shift happening. Even if I wake up and feel tired, once I start walking and I start verbalizing some positive ideas, it's like it gets the transmission shifting. Then at around 5 a.m., that's when I jump into my mastermind group. So I'll do my morning mindset messages. And I've been doing this for a long time now, every day without missing, every single day. And I'll think of a topic, I'll think of a lesson, I'll think of something useful that I want to articulate and share with you guys. and I'll drop in and I'll share those bits of wisdom, those nuggets. And it's anywhere from about 3 to 7 minutes long. And I will tell you this. I've had people say that one of the most powerful, potent things that came with my coaching was those morning mindset messages. They said, oh, you're good at like the health stuff, like you're good at reading blood work and good at giving people, supplements and diet plans based off all this stuff, that you're good at that. But the thing that really helped me the most was those morning mindset messages. And I'd listen to them every morning to start my day. And I cannot tell you how fulfilling it is to hear that. And a lot of guys, they don't have that. They just wake up and the first thing they do is they're checking emails and checking messages and just mindlessly scrolling and being reactive as heck. And then you wonder why your blood pressure is high. You wonder why you're super stressed. So I drop into those morning mindset messages. Once I've done that, that's when I'll walk some more. I'll keep walking and I write a couple of posts for social media. I call it my digital journal. So I think to myself, what is a story, what's a lesson, what's something I want to share that is inspiring me today? And I'll usually attach a picture or a video, and I'll just write. I don't use AI, I just write. It's like my digital journal. And I write, and I express it, and I send it out to the world imperfectly. Some mornings it comes easier than others, but it's the action and the habit of being consistent. I don't just hit and miss just because I don't feel like it came to me. I hold myself to that standard. And you should consider doing that too. So once I've done that, I've got my social media content up, and I document a lot of things in my stories. So in my Instagram and Facebook stories, I'll take snapshots through my day. So I'll show the push-ups I do when I wake up in the morning. I'll do a walk and talk where I'm walking in the morning and I'm kind of expressing a thought. I'll share times where I'm hanging out and playing with Xander and looking after him. I document my life. And it's just genuinely what I'm doing. And people like to see that. And part of it is like it humanizes you. I want to show people that I'm with my family all day. Like my wife Lauren, she homeschools our children. I get to spend time with them all through the day. Yeah, I work hard and I wake up early and all these things. But once I get my morning routine done, so I'll go back into the house when they're about to wake up and I'll go into dad mode. And I'm like making them breakfast. So I make them breakfast in the morning. I take out the trash. I clean up the cat litter. I do all that stuff. They wake up in the morning, and I go in there and I spend a little bit of time just with them before I go into the bathroom and get ready. Then I go into the bathroom, I get ready. If I'm using any peptides, I'll take my peptides at that point. Brush my teeth, jump in the shower quickly, get myself feeling and looking presentable. Every day I do this, even on a Sunday. It doesn't matter if I'm like staying at home or going out. I do it every day as like honoring myself and my presentation. It's just like non-negotiable. And once I've got ready, I'll then either run a couple of errands in the morning or I walk in the morning outside in the light and I'll tune into a few one-on-one messages with students and I'll start to just put myself out there. I'll start to do a live stream in the coaching group. And then like, for example, now it's 10:30 and I'm recording a podcast episode. And once I've done this, I'll go in and I'll see if Xander, my son, he's 11 months old now, is woken up from his nap. And if he has, I'll put him in the stroller and I'll go take him for a walk to give Lauren a little break. It gives Lauren a chance to do a little workout if she wants. She likes to garden outside, so we're growing a bunch of microgreens and blueberry trees and stuff like that. So she'll go out and she'll do some of that stuff she enjoys, just to give her a little break. And I get to do that with my son every day. And I'll walk with him, and while I'm pushing him, he's just looking around, taking it in, goo-goo gaga-ing, and I'll be repurposing that time. So I will have ChatGPT on my phone, and I'll be doing voice to text. I'll be talking into ChatGPT to come up with podcast ideas. If I need to send emails, I'll be talking into the chat to create emails for me. I have even a channel that's called Fraser's Voice, where I've taken some of my best social media post, and I posted it into this chat, and I said, analyze how I write and speak. And when I dictate into this chat, I want you to clean it up for me so I can send it. Now, it's not changing what I'm saying. It's just creating the structure, the grammar, the sentence spacing. It makes it look like I wrote it myself. And it will remove any filler words, ums, ahs, ands, buts. But it's my words. I specifically tell it to not change my wording. And I'll be walking along. And if I have emails to respond to someone, I'll verbalize it while I'm walking. And it will pull out the email for me. I'll copy that. I'll paste it in, and I'll send it. If I have people asking me about coaching, often I'll send you a quick voice message. Sometimes I'll send a video message. A lot of the time, I'll do that voice to text. And I'll verbalize it, I'll copy it, and I'll send it. I go through my social media, and if I see people posting and showing up doing a good job, I want to bring and add some value. I want to let you know that I see you. And so I'll dictate a quick 5 or 6 sentences verbally, copy that, post it in the comments. So by the time I finish my 20 or 30 minute walk, I've sent off a couple of emails, I've done a post on social media, I've messaged a bunch of students, and I've done some commenting on social media while I'm walking with my son, in the sun, getting fresh air, breathing in the mountains and just hearing the birds chirping. Sometimes I'll just listen to a podcast. And sometimes I'll take some video. I'll do a live stream. And then sometimes I just walk with him and I just talk to him. Even though he can't speak yet, he's looking around, he's taking it in. And so that is a time block of work production for me, even though it's with my son. And then I do the same thing in the afternoon where I'll go out and I'll kick a soccer ball around with my daughter Zia. Now, obviously, while I'm doing that, that's more of like me just doing that. Sometimes I'll shoot a couple of stories to kind of show people, hey, like get out there and get your kids physically active. You get physically active. Show them what it looks like. And I'll kick the ball around with her for a little bit. And then we all take a walk as a family at some point in the day too. So I'll push Xander. And in those times, I'll just talk to Lauren, or I might just listen to a little bit of music, and I'll just let Lauren and Zia have a conversation or whatever, and we're all just kind of hanging out walking. And in between those times, that's when I'm on my standing desk and walking pad, creating content and coaching, or I'm on a Zoom call for my mastermind. Like any of you guys who are in my mastermind know that I walk while I'm on my mastermind calls. I walk all the time. And it's been one of the best energy optimizing hacks there is. Did you know that when you walk and you move your body consistently, you have better blood pressure, you have better digestion, you sleep better, and your fat loss is way easier, and your energy is way better. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And I'm the type of person that if you tell me, hey, this is a good thing to do, I will do it all day if that's what's required. See, that's the difference between people that really achieve and the ones that don't. The ones that don't, they'll come up with a reason why they can't do it. Oh, I can't really work while I'm walking. And I'm thinking, you can put it at like 1/4 mile an hour, the slowest plod ever. Something is better than nothing. And I think a lot of people, they're just not used to it. So they're framing it from a lens of what they're used to right now, not giving themselves time to get used to it. And so unless you're doing something that involves like you not having any background noise, like if you're a musician and you need to record some tracks, you can't have walking in the background. But outside of that, really, you have the ability to do this. And I literally walk all day. Once I get up in the morning, I'm either on my standing desk and walking pad, or I'm on my air bike taking a couple of calls. I don't do many calls, or I'm outside walking in the sun, pushing the stroller, or just walking by myself with my weighted vest on. And I don't enjoy calls with people. I never have. Like, I'm very intuitive, and I hate doing a ton of planned calls. And I used to be so embarrassed about this. I used to be like, oh man, they're going to think I'm so weird. And I would force myself to stack my calendar with calls, and it was awful. I hated it. And now what I do is I say, hey, you're going to have access to me. We're going to talk in messaging, and we'll talk in written text messaging and written messaging and audio messaging. And we'll go back and forth, and we'll correspond back and forth depending on the level of coaching you have, either every day or once or twice a week. And the good thing is that now with technology, you can basically hit and get a transcription of these audio messages, and then you can take that transcription and you can dump it into AI, and it will literally create like a clean summary for you. So I'll often suggest that to my students. I have so much knowledge in my head that I'll literally verbalize to them things I want them to do. I then tell them to transcribe that and dump it into AI and get a summary. And so that's how we do things. And yeah, it's unorthodox, but I promise you, it makes me tremendously more healthy. And because I'm feeling inspired and I'm feeling good, you perform at a higher level, you get more quality work done. Now, I even tell people, if you have a team, don't just sit in an office with your team and have your meeting. Go for a walk together. And there are like little AI pendants that you can get, that like a necklace that you can turn on, and it will record what you're saying, and it will put it into a summary for you. So you take a walk, you wear an AI recording pendant, it will record it for you, it'll put it into a summary. So now you have those notes that you might have needed to sit down and write, but you've got it all done. So with the advent of AI, it's changing the game. So I literally, when I say to you, I literally walk all day, I genuinely mean that. And when I do stop, it's for dinner time, and I wind down, and I really enjoy that time. And I've even told people, I stop having interactions with people at 4:30. Some people want to do like a nighttime call, or they want to try and call me at 5 o'clock. It's not happening because I'm in there helping my family make dinner. I've had people try and call through at like 5:30. I don't answer because I'm in there making family with I'm in there making dinner with my family. And that to me is the priority. And also, it's like I said, it's teaching people to be solution-oriented. So, hey, you go away and you solve that problem, you come back to me, and then we'll talk about what you did, and then we'll refine it, and we'll get better and better and better. And then what happens is the person gets very, very confident and competent, and that leads to really good long-term results. You're not this yo-yo dieting bullcrap, or this codependency bullcrap that people have where they want you to hold their hand, and they're like dependent on you for survival. That codependency stuff is not good. And that's why I avoid it, and I refuse to do it. So I say all this because outside of all of that, I'll do my workout here at home in my superhuman gym. And I even will do my workout, and in between my sets while I'm resting, I'll send a couple of voice messages to students. I'll take a couple of stories for my social media. I'm like adding little bits of stuff in while I'm doing it. And I'm disciplined enough to like not let it distract me. Some people, I would tell you to not do that. I would say when you're training, you just focus on training. Because if you jump away and you start emailing people and doing other stuff, you'll end up you're just gonna lose focus and not even train. But I'm very regimented with taking those rest periods and dedicating them to something that's content related. I shoot videos and I share those in my stories as part of like my brand awareness. I want to show people. And you've got to realize this. My life, I don't wear the flashiest clothes, and I don't floss, like I don't try to show off a bunch of super wealthy material stuff, because that to me I've never really been that interested in that. And I could get some of those things, and I could get more of it. I could absolutely do a lot of it, and I just don't want to, especially because I feel like when you have a desire to really create a beautiful buffer and financial security for your family, you would rather spend money on a beautiful home and a beautiful homeschool room and education for your family and good food, like good, healthy, organic, whole food, stuff like that. And that to me is real wealth. That to me is absolute just riches. Being able to have my kids at home, my wife can just focus on homeschooling them. She doesn't have to work because I handle business. You know, that to me is a real floss. You know, flossing is sort of like showing off. And that's a real floss to me, is like being able to like have your wife at home looking after your children because she wants to homeschool and she doesn't have to work. I would tell you, wherever you are at, make that part of your aspirations. And even if they still want to work, that's great too. But make it part of your aspirations to at least get to that place to even, you want to at least be able to decide if that's what you want to do. Is that even something you can decide on? Make that your decision. Don't make it a mandatory thing. But I say all this because I share my life, and it is simple. You know, we live in the Great Smoky Mountains, and we spend a number of years traveling in our RV exploring, and we have a 44-foot fifth-wheel RV that's in storage right now. And some people might look at that and go, oh, man, I don't want to live in an RV. It's like living in a trailer. And what they don't realize is that a lot of RVs now are pretty nice. Like a lot of them, the kitchens and the interior is almost better than most people's house kitchens. But beyond that, you've got to realize that your version of wealth and your version of freedom, well, so your version of wealth might look different, but your version of freedom, it's all the same thing. We traveled in our RV on our own terms, wherever we wanted, remotely, because that was true freedom for us. We live in the mountains. I have Lauren at home homeschooling the kids because that's true freedom to us. Maybe true freedom to you looks like having the top penthouse in a tower in Central Park, New York. And that's like to you, your idea of like just living large, freedom. Whereas my idea is like being in the Smoky Mountains, having land with a mountain stream and a bunch of fruit trees like an orchard and a beautiful house and a home gym where I have you guys come out and have these private day experiences with me here in the mountains. You see, the feeling is the same, even though what you see might be different. And it's all, and the way that you can create this long-term effect where you don't burn out and you can keep going, all of the stuff that I'm talking about here is an inherent part of that. It's all an inherent part. And I will tell you that you have to start really taking seriously your diet and supplementation and your lifestyle, like all your software. You know, I say food is like software and your body and mind are the hardware. And what I've noticed is that the guys that get some degree of financial success, or even a lot, but they're irritated, they're moody, they're not sleeping well, they're anxious, they've got ADHD, they're getting the blood pressure issues and all the other things. They typically don't understand the effect that their diet is having on their physiology. That's a big one, by the way. They think counting calories and macros is enough. It's not enough. If it was, you would have the result that you want. The reason why you don't have the result you want is because there's something you don't know. And so I always think to myself, is this a good operating system update or is this malware? Like, what is this food doing to my physiology, to my psychology, to my neurobiology? Because you got to remember, every food decision you make is either going to enhance your energy and enhance your performance and improve your recovery, or it's going to take away from all those things. And so for me, when I'm thinking about performing at the highest level, and I want to make sure that I don't burn out and that I'm not suffering the consequences of quote-unquote success, I absolutely focus on my diet. I've seen guys that don't understand this, or they eat like crap, and they have so many mood swings. And then the thing is you don't realize that when you're an awful person to be around, people won't want to be around you. People won't want to be close to you. And then you wonder why no one cares or why you feel alone. because you're being a miserable person because of your chemistry. So you got to take your diet seriously. And you're setting an example for the people around you. What type of example do you want to set for your family? But beyond that, sunlight, hydration. I train every day in some way, shape, or form. I tell people train every day, even if you do like a weighted vest walk some days. Maybe you lift weights every second day, and then the days between you do a weighted vest walk. But you train every day. Get out in the sun. Like I said, 5 to 20 minutes, 2 times a day. As a baseline, that sun exposure is key. At the end of the day, have dinner with your family. Sit down and slow down and turn off your push notifications to your phone and take time to just connect with them. We have this beautiful wind down process at the end of the day. You know, last night we're winding down and the house is cleaned up and we're in the bedroom just kind of slowing down. And Lauren was feeding my son Xander, and Zia sees me laying on the bed, and she comes down and just lays beside me. And I just laid there with her and just gave her a back tickle. And it's those moments that mean so much, because you realize that you're building this beautiful life where you are building financial security and abundance for your family, but you're doing it in a way where you're still able to connect with the people you love. It's not a trade-off, and it doesn't have to be a trade-off, contrary to what so many people will have you think. You don't even have to trade off your health. I train every day. Like, I don't even count calories at this point, and I'm like 6 to 7% body fat. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because this is an example of how when you find systems that are sustainable long-term, the byproduct is a high-level result. And that's what you want in being a business athlete. You're going to see so many people out there in that hustle and grind culture where they shame people if they don't answer the phone at the drop of a hat, and they tell you that you should respond instantly as it's a badge of honor. Look at the health of those people. Most of the people that say that are fat and out of shape and burned out. And if I looked at their blood work, it's probably super inflamed and not good. That is the consequence of their success. And the smart ones will be able to see it and then come and get the right help to reconfigure what they're doing. The dumb ones will keep doing what they're doing, and they'll more than likely have a heart attack or stroke, unfortunately. You just got to let people have their experience and realize that some people are destined for that path. Don't make that you. Don't make it you. And what I would also say is, like I mentioned at the start, get your blood work run. Know your data. It's important you know your data and numbers, because once you know your data and numbers, you know where to focus your attention. And then you can start solving problems in the right order. And for the love of God, like, get outside and walk more. Don't just be sitting at some fancy desk in a room sedentary all day. That's not an optimal way to be. Like, you're not going to be truly healthy that way. And do not think that you can just peptide and testosterone replace and exosome and stem cell your way to optimal health. You won't be able to achieve optimal health by biohacking the living daylights out of yourself if you don't manage your stress and nervous system and all of these things that I've been talking about. And I say this from that first-hand experience. You know, it was hard. Like, when I went through that period in my life and I just hit massive burnout, on the back end of that burnout, we kind of imploded in a little bit with our progress and income and stuff. It was hard, you know, to see that hit, and then you lose confidence. But through the back end of that, I realized that this time around, I had to do it different. And then building this different process, having boundaries, not just being on call when everyone wants, not having push notifications set. And even if some people don't understand, that's okay. They're just not meant for you. The right people will get it. And in fact, the right people will probably adopt some of your habits and be like, man, you saved my life. You changed my life. And that's the point. So today, you've got to realize that being a business athlete looks unconventional to the average normie. It looks unorthodox to someone who is playing an average game. And you have to have the courage to do it regardless. And if you can be the type of person that says, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to create what he's talking about, and you walk all day like I do, well done. Like, you are my people. You are someone that should be in my rotation, quite frankly. Because I've had guys like that and girls come in, and we build such amazing long-term relationships. I'm friends with a lot of my one-on-one students at this point because we've built such a bond together in this journey, watching them grow as a parent, an operator, a human, a business athlete. So go out there today. Focus on these things. Recognize that a lot of the crap you see on social media is an illusion. You're not seeing the detrimental health and relationship effects success is having. And you have to build a better foundation if you want to play a long game. Because if you want to make sure that you don't avoid burnout, you don't get stuck in these ruts like so many other people, and you can be helping people for a longer period in your life and enjoy it and genuinely love it. And you know what? Most of all, be that beautiful role model for the people around you, for your children, for your partner, to show them what it looks like to truly care about yourself, what it looks like to be that business athlete.